I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience this. There is no other option than to succeed.
Hey, you all, welcome back for another episode of The Necessary Entrepreneur. I'm excited. I always usually have a good indication on what the episode's going to be like from the 5 or 10 minutes beforehand. And on this one with Russell, I was caught up and said, man, we got to hit the start button and we got to get this thing going. So you always wonder, are you going to share some things that you don't want to share live? But here soon, I don't know. It's just going to be push the button and get started. But today's guest is Russell Breuer. He's founder and CEO of Spot Tango. A lot of times it's hip now to have a business where it's like just a 4-letter word, but he's Spot and Tango. Russell started Spot and Tango to create fresh, personalized nutrition for pets at a time when most pet food options were industrial and undifferentiated. Since founding the company, he's navigated the challenges of building a DTC food brand. We're going to speak there and go deep into that, from product development and supply chain to subscription economics and customer retention. Whoa, that's a big one. All in one of the most competitive retail categories in the U.S. So what does it take to build a business where passion meets tight unit economics? That's where we're digging into today. Russell, welcome to The Necessary Entrepreneur, man.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the conversation.
Tight unit economics for Spot and Tango. Is that real in this pet food category?
It is. In a digital e-commerce subscription model, it's all metrics. Right. So we don't sell on shelf. It's not brick and mortar business. It's all online. And to be successful online, if you are a lower funnel paid performance marketer, all the dollars you infuse into Meta, Google, TikTok, et cetera, you have to measure the efficiency of those dollars. And you have to think about things like lifetime value of customer, economics as far as like contribution, gross margin in the business, and how all of that math works together. So it's all metrics. A lot of brands that are D2C, and there's all sorts of names of I would say like the early movers, people figured out how to build big businesses online, like grow, as in like, okay, where's customers on their phone, get them to convert and buy tennis shoes, t-shirts, whatever category. The challenge with those models, high growth, they can be very capital intensive, but a lot of folks never figured out how to make money doing it. So there's been a lot of kind of high profile flame outs of businesses that kind of unit economics, margin, staging capital was kind of not in the consideration set until later in the life stage of the company. And that was perilous. So yes, for us, it's all metrics.
So did they flame out because they raised too much money a lot of times while they were still figuring it out?
I don't know if it was raised too much money. I think it was like trying to go too fast and over investing in infrastructure and excuse me, where maybe there was like a false precision in terms of the demand signal, thinking that more revenue and more growth would come, given like early trajectory in the business, and then built out, 3PL distribution, more manufacturing, and like just couldn't fill that demand. Because a lot of these businesses will asymptote, right? So there's like up and to the right growth. And depending on the category, asymptote, like they start to plateau and flatline. And you've seen that with brands historically. And so for us, we're in a very unique category, pet. There's really no ceiling. There's 90 million dogs in the US. Health and wellness is here. It's happening. So is digital commerce within the pet food landscape. And so for us, it's a tremendous opportunity. But a lot of those brands kind of just over-rotated. That I kind of alluded to, staging capital and being a really prudent operator and thinking each step as it comes and not getting really over your skis.
So did you know in 2018 when you started this that it was going to be a DTC brand? Did you know that, direct to consumer?
No, I love that question. We were an omni-channel, all these fancy words. We sold in pet specialty stores and online. Like I put together a Squarespace website. It was like a template. I dropped in some images of my dog. We offered like small, medium, and large plans. That's it. And then I went to pet specialty retailers in Brooklyn and Manhattan with our fresh frozen recipe. In those days, it was wrapped in this beautiful pink butcher paper. It was kind of shouting craft from the rooftops and like high touch. And I said, look, here's health and wellness. Here's what's happening. And these retailers were like, this is awesome. Never seen this type of product before. And I was like, well, great. What can I put a fridge or a freezer next to point of sale? They all said yes. So it was kind of both. And there was no grand plan of like, oh yeah, this personalized D2C. No. It was like, let's eat some glass and learn and figure this out. Like, can we make money doing it? Is there product market fit? So that was a really exploration more than anything. And then ultimately we pulled the freezers. We don't sell on shelf. It's all D2C. But the 0 to 1 phases, there was a lot of, baptism by fire, try something, the expression like fail fast, fail often. Like we embody that as a company, like make the mistakes, but do it fast and learn from that. There's nothing worse than like a slow maybe, right? And so we were very much kind of thinking on both sides of Omni. Now, as I mentioned, we're all D2C.
So the book, when it's written, you're telling me it's filled way more with eating glass and failures than success.
Honestly, I when the book's written or the podcast or the recording, or the diaries, the 0 to 1, there were a lot of dark times in the business. These are not linear journeys. And so I like to be really honest when I have conversations with folks and like-minded entrepreneurs about the realities of building a company, because it's really hard over years. And finding like breakthrough and product market fit takes time, and you've got to find that vein, then you hit the gas, right? Oftentimes folks, they try to build the end too early. The best looking website and the best product in a channel that thinks right. They spend a lot of money and time doing that, and it's not right. So you kind of have to fight. You kind of have to like fail yourself into success. And that was certainly our story with launching Unkibble and like diversifying our product offering and finding like very, very high product market fit and then leaning into that. But that it was all staged over time. But yes, lots of war stories, 0 to 1.
Why are you winning now? Because you are. Because a 9-figure business, that's winning. Why are you winning now?
We have a very differentiated product called Unkibble. So in our category, within the pet health and wellness space, these are traditionally fresh frozen recipes. So it's all human grade ingredients. So like, what do we do? We are pet health and wellness D2C. Primary offering is food. We also sell treats, supplements, and dental care. In our category, fresh frozen is very competitive. So it's like a lean cuisine for dogs. Great. And we still have that product. Wonderful. Love the product, etc. We responded to customer feedback in the early days that the product is expensive because cold chain is expensive. Insulation costs money, so does dry ice. Convenience was a big issue as well. Putting a bunch of frozen dog food in your freezer, if you live in like, the 5 boroughs like Manhattan or urban city center, you're trading either like Rover's meals or your meals. Like you're trying to fit it all in, and like that's tough. Serving size challenge. So that was the customer feedback. We used that to launch Unkibble. Unkibble is a hero product. We like to say it's the benefits of a fresh frozen recipe and the convenience of kibble. It's shelf stable. We take the water out, makes the product 30 to 40% less expensive than all the other competitors, shelf stable. And then we built a factory dedicated. So we verticalized the entire supply chain. We own the supply chain. That created a significant competitive moat. And it resonates with the consumer because the reality is most people, all people, are busy, on the go pet parents. This is personalized scoop and serve, and like off you go. And I think that just lands with the consumer. But being able to own the supply side was a big breakthrough for us in particular, because during COVID, we grew a lot, which is wonderful to say, but back to the realities of building a business, operationalizing hypergrowth is very tough. And we lived that.
Is it tough because there's not unlimited revenue? There's no money tree on your back deck.
Yeah, it's all of that. It's like staging capital for us. The business, we had 2 people on customer service. We launched Unkibble and probably got 10 customer service tickets a day. Like, where's my food, or FedEx is delayed, or what have you. That turned into 500 tickets per day a month later. So immediately there's a challenge. How do I build a customer service team that believes in the values, the mission of our brand, and the culture, who are like hardworking and attentive and responsive? And it's like, wow, that's a challenge. How do I do that kind of like tomorrow? Because we're getting yelled at by a lot of customers. And then we figured that piece out. And it's the next challenge was like, all these people keep clicking convert and purchase, which again is a wonderful feeling because you see like the revenue number tick up, but then you got to ship the product. So you need more protein, more fruit, more vegetable. You need to figure out labor shift, production, all of the above. And to figure all of that out honestly took years. But And then to your first question, it's like, yes, you have to stage capital appropriately to fund all of this stuff. So it's all of the above. And we like to say we're building the plane while we fly it. And that's kind of been part of our mantra. We're still flying, the wings are intact, but there's moments when, fuel is low, flying low.
Yeah, but I think, read any of the books of the so-called successful entrepreneurs. They have multiple moments like this. And I think maybe operating a business, you're growing Spot and Tango, but operating a business, just knowing like, hey, these aren't surprises. They might feel like a surprise today, but they aren't surprises. So prepare yourself for this.
That's it. I always say to the team, and we've lived this, things break every day. Like trucks break down, equipment breaks down, it fatigues. So there could be HR issue. We had an issue yesterday, an electrical challenge at our manufacturing facility that was unforeseen. And we've spent this is we're kind of year 3+ at that facility. So we know a lot more than we did in those days. Phone rings. It's like, oh, we have a challenge with the transformer. Okay, let's talk about it. But it's over time, you are conditioned to being able to address and solve those problems. And for us, first principles problem solving is essential. So it's like taking a deep breath, understanding the root cause of the issue and the problem, and then selecting ways to solve that in a very methodical way. And manner has been kind of part of it. But yes, to your point, that's any business. You're an entrepreneur. Any business experiences those challenges. It's how you respond is what makes you successful.
Go deep into first principles. I mean, there's not a conversation that isn't had from an entrepreneurial perspective and business organization that, hey, we go back to first principles. Tell us what that means to you, because everybody's stating that, and it seems like we're having some fluff conversation about it. Whereas when you're talking about first principles decision-making.
Yeah. So you start with the problem, right? So it's really sitting down and understanding every angle of the problem. So you're not rushed to make a decision. It's sitting down with all the key stakeholders to properly understand all of the component pieces leading to the decision, which can be, how did you get there? Why did it happen? Who or what was responsible for that issue? Was it an equipment? Was it a personnel issue? Was it a training lapse? So it's understanding, those are all the component pieces, right? And from the component pieces, you'll understand whether there was a process failure. Because maybe when the fire alarm goes off, people may say it's an equipment failure, right? But the reality is it could be a process failure. It has nothing to do with the equipment. And a process failure could be something like preventative maintenance on a piece of equipment. All equipment requires, you have to put fuel in the car, put oil in the car. And so it could be a process challenge. And if it's a process challenge, is that the responsibility of an equipment supplier, or is that a challenge internally in terms of your process and your team? So it's breaking out those individual pieces and having an open conversation with the team. That's part of first principles problem solving. And then from that, you can troubleshoot. Tactical troubleshooting is, okay, if the equipment is effectively broken, fix equipment, but the root of the problem was not equipment, it's process. And then we start talking about process, which could be training. It could be bandwidth constraint. It could be a new process, right? And so that's when you go into conversations about not only addressing where there's been deficiency in terms of the current issue, but mitigating that issue in the future. And that's entrepreneurship. It's future-proofing. Whatever you do, it's future-proofing to ensure whatever occurred doesn't happen again, because new issues will surface. And so if you're not good at breaking down component pieces, all of these issues compound, and then eventually the straw that broke the camel's back happens. And it's like, well, there's too many issues. We can't do it.
Yep. What's been critical? You know how, listen, at the end of the day, what I've found businesses, it's relationships. Maybe AI is going to make us irrelevant. We're about to find out.
Sure.
But these human personal relationships are what has provided me the most success in my life. And normally it's taken years to evolve, but the best things that happen usually inside the companies I operate, it's because of people making them happen. And it might be a passion for the business, somebody that's all in, they're committed, they're a part of the culture. And so really, if I go to first principles of the business, it's like, yeah, we had a good idea. There's a lot of good ideas. You have to have humans that are willing to get on board and execute this with you.
That's
And
it.
I say this to say, is that the most important? And if there's something else in your brain right now, that's because people could say, no, it's going to be AI because the machines are going to be important. Because supposedly, Elon, supposedly we're going to forget about Tesla, that they made cars. They say in a decade, we're not going to remember the cars. We're going to remember the 10 million robots in the world doing stuff for us. You know what I'm thinking about every day? I'm like, am I really missing something here? Because I'm operating my business. It's like, is this whole thing going to catch me, even though I'm plugged in using it? Am I going to be caught off guard and be irrelevant? But what's important? What's the most important thing to your business right now? And I don't want to force you into saying it's the people, because too many people think we have to say that.
Sure. So I think when you're going from 0 to 1, product market fit is absolutely critical. Okay. Like if you're a manufacturer or you're developing a product, like if people don't want and love and or need your product, like it's not going to work. Right. So I'm giving you like a staged answer. Mm-hmm. So for us, that was fresh, mission driven, human grade ingredient dog food, balanced for a dog's dietary needs. Like that's the product. Now, around that, there's everything else. How do you make the product? How do you distribute the product? How do you maintain like the customer experience and retain customer? How do you encourage repeat customer? How do you build brand awareness? How do you market? How do you acquire customers? How do you scale a company? That's like the everything else. So in our 0 to 1 days, there was no team. It was my wife and myself, and then a co-founder guy, Dylan Monroe. We built the business full time since 2018. But it used to be Dylan and myself in an office. There was no team, but we had the product, and so we were able to build enough infrastructure around the business such that we could attract talent. And we hire a lot of folks that are kind of former McKinsey, Bain, BCG consultants. And then to your point, you do need to find people that have a unbelievable grit and persistence. We say curiosity is key. And I always say to folks, like when we hire or train or attract new talent, we sit down and talk about curiosity a lot, because curiosity is, I can ask somebody, please do A, B, or C. The person who is successful is like, well, what about D, E, and F? And like, here are new doors, here are new opportunities. Because, and this is still the case now, even despite being in the business for 8+ years, I don't know what I don't know. And if you don't have smart people around you asking the next question, I also say like, you need people that are going to look around the corner for you, and like deep dive a particular topic, whether that's in, I work a lot with our finance team, obviously, like a Big Four audit and technical accounting. It's like, I'm not a trained accountant, nor do I have 18 hours a day to figure it out, but I have really smart people that are going to go like deep on a topic and bring new information to the table. So yes, I think the second answer to your question is like surrounding yourself with people that believe in the mission, who are naturally curious creatures, and bring that intellect to the table. That's also key for us.
Yeah. Where do you think Spot and Tango, because unfortunately these businesses, they become our identities while we're doing them, don't they?
Yeah. Yes.
They do. Yes. And I don't know if there's any way around it, because we spend so much of our time. I don't think it's just waking time. I think we're dreaming about this stuff. We're having nightmares. I mean, we wake up and it's as if it was still on my brain while I'm sleeping. Where do you think Spot and Tango, where's this fit in? Because to you, it's everything.
Yes.
Where's it fit into this economic cycle on what it's going to be? Like, what's it going to mean? Do you think in 50 years, it's rolled up into something else that's bigger and the name goes away? Is this the name that's going to roll others up? Where's this fit?
That's a great question. I as you were asking, I was thinking like, where does it fit into the universe? Where does it fit into my life? I agree with your comment, by the way. Like, yes, like part of my identity is in the business, which by the way is a very positive thing and can be a negative thing, right? When you go home, if you're at church or with your kids, it's like, okay, let's like separate the two. And it's like, the reality is like, I live it every day. Yes. And I also say that, I work for the company. I get a W-2, and the company does, on a Saturday, the company is still running, and it's running on Sunday and Christmas and New Year's Eve. And when you're sleeping, the machine runs. I work for the machine. And I'm a facilitator. I'm the founder, but I'm connected to the machine like anybody else is. And now given the scale, it's always working. So yes, it's like ingrained in my DNA. And I do talk to my kids a lot about entrepreneurship. Where did the apple come from, the farmer, and how to get to the grocery store and how to get to the house and why does it look so shiny, all the things. Those are great teaching moments for the children. Spot Tango has built very, very strong brand equity and awareness. The name's not going anywhere. Like it is, we have tens of thousands of customers. The market's acknowledged us as being a leader in mission-driven human-grade ingredients. Where are we in terms of like the cycle and where are we in terms of overall fitting in with the economy? Spot Tango lives honestly at the epicenter of some major trends. One is health and wellness, right? So the ideas of like organic and gluten-free honestly didn't exist like 15 years ago. Now they do. Like Whole Foods exists. People are actively thinking about their own health and wellness. Go read Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. I mean, it's everywhere. People are talking about protein levels, their macros, getting better sleeps. Performance sleep is now a thing, believe it or not. So that's here. It's happening in the pet food landscape too. The dog used to sleep outside. Now the dog sleeps in the bed. So that's one area that we're living through, that reality. And that's now happening in pet in a big, big way. One. Two, like digital commerce is everywhere. Everyone's attached to their phone. It's like an appendage. So online shopping and e-commerce behavior has changed dramatically and shifted very much. Brick and mortar is still very important, obviously, but there's been a huge shift, in particular in pet, to e-commerce. Customers and consumers trust e-commerce websites more now than they ever did. Before it was like, well, I've never heard of that brand. If I give them my credit card, they're not going to send me the product or they're going to steal my information and then like my identity theft and then everything goes wrong. Consumers trust websites. So we're living in that trend. Personalization. So we learn a lot about your dog's weight and diet and activity level to inform portion and calories per day. Personalization is a huge trend as well. So we're in this thematic and of course the humanization of pets. We're living in this thematic where that's one of the reasons why we've been successful, because all these consumers, and honestly, when I started the business in the studio apartment, we were literally cooking fresh human grade dog food for friends and family. And all my buddies said, whatever you do, don't do that. That's like, this is bad. That's a bad idea. And my answer was, you're entitled to your opinion. This industry is so large. I mean, it's larger than coffee and razors combined. If that gives you any sense of scale. And we are at the forefront of what's happening. Now, granted, we can talk more about innovation. So we're constantly staying on the edge and like, the expression innovate or die. We're constantly pushing a new product to stay relevant. But no, this is not a flash in the pan, some like early stage startup that gets acqui-hired and all of a sudden like the product dissolves and the people are what's left over. Like, no, we've got staying power.
Because it would be terrible just for you and your family that's what the identity became. That was the core of the question. We spend so much time on it. We tie this identity up and what's it for? Yeah, we're all going to make some money and we made an impact in society and stuff. But then for somebody else to change the brand, I don't know if we should be concerned with that because maybe it'll keep us from going all in and building it. But what are we building it for then? Like that's more of a big life question. I went back and listened to A Man's Search for Meaning. I haven't listened to a ton of these books, but it's fascinating what we can do with these minds that we have.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that what do we do with these identities? All of a sudden, does it just one day? It's like, well, I have a new one now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a relationship, it ends and it's like people pretend like they didn't even know each other. And it's like, what about the other 5 or 10 years, that we were like, hey, like we actually lived together. Do you remember that? And it's like, oh no, I'm on to the next chapter. So
this is bigger than that is what you're saying. That's what's awesome. That's what's awesome. I think to build something, to actually have the vision to know it's more than that.
Yeah. Look, we have very humble beginnings. I mean, I literally cooked the food myself. Like I got a food handler's license, which teaches you about like the temperature danger zone. You don't put raw food above finished food in the refrigerator and how to cook and like safety protocols. It's administered in 23 different languages in New York City because most of New York City is made of like restaurants, chefs, sous chefs. You need a food handler's license legally to actually handle products and food. I got one of those. I'd leave my office in Midtown Manhattan, the fancy financial office, and go to Queens and cook literally human grade dog food on like the graveyard shift because that was like the cheapest slot. And then did accounting and customer service and all the things. So like, it's like blood, sweat, and tears are definitely on, in the business.
What was on your mind when you were working 10-hour days in the financial district, probably in a nice midtown office building, and you sacrificed this other part of your life to try to make this happen? What was going through your mind?
I was, you know what? You're an entrepreneur, so you probably appreciate this. Everyone has ideas amongst their friends, over a coffee or a drink. And it's like, oh, we need I remember like 10 years ago, everyone would say, we need an app for that. There's got to be an app to do A, B, and C, or this business idea. I was always the guy that would show up the next day and say, hey, I was thinking about that idea. And like, here's some thoughts. And like, I would have like a slide written down, or like, cause I had this like burning urgency to do something entrepreneur. I've always been that way. This idea came into my life, and I was like, all right, let's go. This is it. And of course so what was going through my mind in those moments, there were like Post-it notes everywhere with ideas and things to do that weren't what I was supposed to be doing, as in like my day job. It was dreaming, honestly, of how else can I find a way up the mountain here that doesn't require me to report to somebody else. Choose your own adventure. That's what it was. And I think I launched the business when I was kind of 35, officially, bootstrapped for a few years and went full time. And I felt late to the game. My goal was to launch a business by the age of 30. It was 35, and I was married to 2 kids, and then, life happened very quickly. So I felt late to the game, but it was like inside, and I don't know why, divine intervention or what have you, was pushing me. And honestly, if another idea had come through that wasn't like pet food, that could have potentially been the business. There was like something that I had a passion for. So that's what was going through my mind. It was like, let's go. It's time to execute. And so that slide then became a business.
Was that exchange in your mind? Did you come to terms with the exchange is worth it? Because every time we do something, we're giving something else up. So the exchange of that graveyard shift of you cooking that food and doing this, you're taking away from the other time you could be kids, wife, family. Were you intentionally making that decision, knowing what you were giving up and somehow telling yourself, I have to do this? Or you just didn't even know what was around the next corner, just felt right? Did you know what you were doing, or did it feel right?
That's interesting. You're going deep. I like this, Mark. Long-term vision is what it was, is that I knew that there was very strong product market fit for what we were doing, given the signal from customers. People said, we love it, we love it, we love it. So I knew that there was something there that was kind of the North Star of like very strong product market fit that kept me going. In hindsight now, we refer to those days as like the science experiment, where there could be a strong wind and the whole business blows over. I didn't know. And shockingly, and this is I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience this, there is no other option than to succeed. It's like, you just keep going. You get up every single day, and like every day is good or bad. It's very emotional, I would say. In the early days, it was like quite emotional, like highs and lows, high energy, but, feeling a bit bummed out. Oh, that didn't go so well. For us, it was like no other option. Now, in hindsight, I think about the moments when the company when it was just my wife and I, then, Dylan and myself, a former co-founder, or like I remember being so excited when we had like a 5-person team. I was like, oh man, yeah, woo, we're getting big. Revenue per month, $25,000. Okay. I remember like we used to have an office, and we get an office, we were like a 7-man office, and it was like, oh yeah, it's all. And then now in hindsight, I look back and realize, wow, like we were just 1 or 2 mistakes to the left or right of the path on the mountain, like the perilous path, like on a knife's edge. 1 or 2 steps to the left or right, and it was like game over. That's how all these businesses are. You make a few bad decisions, and either you're like, you run out of cash or other. And so I've looked back at those moments, and I'm like, what? But at the time, that was not part of the consideration set. It was like, well, we've got to get to the summit, so let's just keep walking or hiking and climbing.
Do you think it's important? I know what listening to Jeff Bezos, all the thing we can do is, we're not in the rooms with these guys and these big decisions, but we listen to enough interviews. And here in Cincinnati, where we're at the international airport, it's where the Amazon Prime hub is at this airport. And, you imagine the infrastructure that had to be built for that. And their boulevard is Day One Boulevard. That's the road going in. And he named the road, their institution, of what he tried to instill in that corporation, that every day, no matter how big we get, we have to have the attitude that it's day one. And so I'm thinking, how do you take a 9-figure business right now? Because it could be $1 billion brand. But do you think it's because what we do so much when we accumulate money in something that's worse, then we like, hey, let's scale back this risk a little bit. Let's not maybe push it into the left or right as much. But shouldn't we still be doing some of that?
Day one.
Yeah.
So we talk about that. I mean, I would say that my co-founder and I, humility is one of our values. So if something breaks, we're there too, like with the ops team talking about it. Okay. Like remember that I alluded to the power issue. Mm-hmm. Great. A lot of companies at this stage, like, the founders are mostly doing, they're on stage or they're traveling or they're kind of like building their own brand and they're not really like, I'll give you a better example. We go to the we built our own dedicated factory in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. We go there every week. So we have our headquarters in Midtown Manhattan. We go to the factory the factory is like steel-toe boots and it's a wonderful place, incredible team. Like we go there to work, with everyone there. Those are all like day one. That's like day one mentality. And that permeates the organization. That's like the humility point when I say to people like, look, I used to cook the food like me. It wasn't like I paid someone to do it. I did it because we didn't have the money in the early days. And so I've kind of embodied the brand. And I think that permeates the organization. So, and we screen for that when we hire folks, we talk about that internally. So, but that is hard, to maintain day one-isms because people get years into the journey and the company scales. And it's like, I think maybe it's like human nature for people to like take their foot off the gas. And it's like, oh, this is like, it's easier not to push as hard. You mentioned like the risk. We are still, I would say like we are very prudent managers of the business. Like we are growing 50% year over year still. We're profitable. That's because of all the decisions we've made over the past 8 years, verticalizing, margin wins, et cetera. But we are still very carefully navigating every single day. I'll give you practical examples. We look at the rolling forecast. We look at the models. We look at 13-week cash flow. We talk to ops. We go to the factory. Like we touch and feel like every facet of the business because we know that risk is still on. Yep. For sure, no matter what. I mean, I would say that the risks have changed, but does risk exist for companies at this stage? Absolutely. And that's why we're still highly attentive to all facets.
Because if you don't have that aggressive day one, the risk is this. There's another Spot and Tango out there that you don't know about right now.
That's it. Oh yeah. In pet, every day there's a new, hey, look at me, I'm a shiny new toy, a new food, etc. For sure.
Yep. And there's someone there that they know that their livelihood rests on that success that day. And you give me some grinders like that, they're going to do something.
That's it.
And if you're not, they're going to rise up and take some of this market share.
That's it. So I'll give you another great example. So we launched a product called Pup Gum recently, which is a new in the dental care space. It's Pup Gum. I'm sure you're thinking like that's absolutely ridiculous because a dog can't.
No, I love it. I think I'm listening. Absolutely not.
And we actually encourage consumption because that's how the product works. There's a novel postbiotic in the product that reduces the biofilm on a dog's teeth. It leads to bad breath. That was a completely new innovation. We launched that. We sold out in 2 weeks. It's growing very rapidly, similar to the Unkibble story. That was a completely new innovation. Did we have to do that for the sake of the scale of the company? The answer is like absolutely not. But did we see an opportunity given the dental care space? There's one large player that effectively owns 90% of the market share. No innovation, great significant need for dental care. Like 90% of dogs ages of 3 years and older have a periodontal issue. So there's a burning platform with the consumer. We went for it. Now, granted, we knew eyes wide open, launching that product could have been a hero or zero for sure. It's playing well. And there are other innovations that we're working on as well. Exactly to your point. There's probably 50 people that have raised seed money from early stage venture, and they're all really smart and hardworking, and they're going to go, I'm going to be the next dental care offering or food. Think about starting a company now versus like 25 years ago. You can start a company in 24 hours. 24 biz filings, You don't even need a lawyer anymore.
Insane.
Squarespace or Wix, get your website up and running, plug in Shopify Recharge, subscription angle, Instagram, organic social with Meta, put some money in Meta Business Manager, and like, guess what? You got a company.
Yep. In 90 days, you can have significant cash flow. Significant.
And that's across, I mean, I'm obviously a consumer guy, but across any industry.
Yep. The service industry, even more. The service industry, you can be driving cash flow in 30 to 45 days.
Which is, and that is like the American dream. That is entrepreneurship, which is so amazing. And also terrifying if you're in a category, and if you've built something, defensibility, you're thinking like, oh gosh, who else is, and we've seen all sorts of copycats, Me Too's, people trying to eat our lunch. And it's like, all right, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I got another widget. Boom. Here it is.
Let's go.
Let's go.
How do you add 10,000 more customers?
So we spend our dollars on, lower funnel marketing channels. Typically, Meta, Google, TikTok, direct mail. So kind of your classic core marketing channels. We also build, that's like lower funnel, like highly measurable through customer acquisition cost. We also spend time on and dollars on what we call top of funnel advertising. So think like billboards, we call them wild pastings, those posters on like the sides of buildings, radio, Sirius radio, et cetera. So for us, that's like the core playbook. The core playbook is you need to tell people about what we're doing, and the product sells itself. Now, granted, it's expensive. Marketing is expensive because it's competitive for clicks. Like you're a busy guy, you're distracted, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, everyone's like on the go with their phone. You've got 15 seconds to impress before the phone rings or a notification pops up. So it's how do I capture that person's like true interest? And then how do we keep them engaged to funnel to conversion? So for us, it's more of the same. And again, we've really dialed in. Like I'll give you a practical example. We used to outsource all of our marketing to other people. Now we insource. We have a team in-house buying media, creative. The biggest breakthrough for us is creative. We like to say we're in the entertainment business. Creative is everything. Like we run 40 or 50 ads a week, new ads. Dog owner plus food. You run that and it's like same ad, but it's dog, owner, food, kitchen. And then the next one's like dog, food, owner, kitchen, children, family. You run all those ads and all the algorithms tell you like, version 4 is working. So we like turn off the others, lean into version 4, hit the gas on dollars. When that fatigues, you'll see that in terms of like clicks, conversion rate, and CAC. You've got a whole pipeline of new assets coming out, static, GIFs, video, because you've got to, I'm not only competing against other dog food brands, I'm competing against the consumer. And look, I mean, you go on Instagram and you're getting served all sorts of stuff all day long.
Yeah, we're just trying to get the attention. If you've got a good product, we need the eyes on it.
That's it.
How much of the time operating your business now is this entertainment, creative branding, and marketing versus making the food?
Fortunately, we have dedicated teams that are 100% dedicated to all of the above. So we have, a dedicated marketing team, a dedicated creative team. We have all over 100 people in our factory in Allentown, amazing team that are focused on bringing that product to life, and executing the production of the business. So everyone is like full into function. And my job is, I dip into all the functions, and make sure that, keep the train on the tracks. And what's amazing about it as well? I bring my experience to the table, and intuition is informed by experience, but I also learn every day, which is amazing. We have so many smart people at the company, headquarters, Allentown. I'm not a trained refrigeration technician. You want to learn about refrigeration? Oh my gosh, it's an incredible, amazing world. I learned stuff. I learned things about accounting. I've learned things about marketing because we've brought subject matter experts to the table. And then the trick is it's taking all of those inputs, all of that information concurrently, and then using that to make an informed business decision. What does marketing need? What does ops need? What does sales? What does engineering, data tech? How do you assimilate all that information and then inform either an investment or personnel decision or strategy? That's part of the trick. And it's not easy because the information flow is voluminous.
What's your approach to talent acquisition since you have all these parts of these separate businesses that we see as one brand? What's your approach to talent acquisition? Is there a general approach to all those areas if you're not the expert in them?
Yes. So great question. So we've hired both kind of all around athletes. So I mentioned we've hired a lot of kind of former kind of classically trained consultants who've seen a lot of different businesses and again, bring kind of this first principles problem solving to issues. And we've also hired subject matter experts. So people that are like deep in a niche area that's like highly relevant to the business, whether that's in finance or production. We've brought those two people together. I think interestingly, in a lot of these companies in the early, like the 0 to 1 days, you really need the all around athletes. People that can kind of do it all, people that can, I mean, literally people that will get on the phone and talk to 5 customers to sell product and mitigate the 6th customer who's angry that the product didn't show up in time, and then build email funnels in Klaviyo to acquire customers. And then, go
Maybe
ship
package it up and ship it out.
That honestly, it like when you're like a 5-person team,
yep.
It's not, I'm only ops or marketing. It's like, what do we all need to do today? And it's like, I remember there was a story, one of our one of our co-manufacturers couldn't get a pallet packed in time because there was a labor shortage. The whole company, 6 of us at the time, we were in a freezer packing fresh frozen dog food for like 6 hours, like 10,000 pounds of product. Now, we weren't marketing that day. We were like operating that day. It was cold. And it was really hot, really tough. But it's kind of, and what's amazing is we have found people that they're game,
So important. But now as the business evolves 8 years later, you have specialists in all the areas.
Yes. And that's of paramount importance. So, I'll give you an example. These companies at scale, you have to get audited. There's controllers, there's banks involved. Like there's like reporting, there's regulatory. There's all the stakes at scale. The stakes change. Contract upstream suppliers with vendors, like legal is a reality. That's like hugely important to them. So there's a lot of these. We mentioned before about how easy it is to like start a business, which is great, but those businesses are not yet professionalized. ERP systems, warehouse management systems, legal, HR, accounting, like you start bolting on those pieces, and like those are enablers of large companies that are scaling, just scale. You have to have those pieces in place, and those pieces have sector expertise, like decades of sector expertise. And they have to bring that to the table. Without it, again, you're missing a sail on the boat for sure.
Yeah. I could talk to you all day. I love it. I love these DTC brands and talking about from bootstrapping. Because see, you still have a connection to 8 years ago when you started. In 10 more years, you're going to be a little bit more disconnected. You have the stories, but you're still not going to be as integrated and remembering. You're still there, which is awesome.
Still there. Yes.
Yeah.
My kids remind me every day. We still talk about it at home. And like, they, in the early days, I swear to God, we would be like Saturdays and Sundays, my wife and I would be wrapping fresh frozen dog food in pink, like the big pink butcher paper from the deli. You wrap like the boar's head sandwich in it. So it's like, it's craft. It's this kind of, we would sit there and hand wrap food, stack it. And like my kids, my oldest son, he's 11 now. He was like 6 and 7 years old, and he was there. We'd stack it. He'd move the box down to the distribution center, which was our basement. Okay. So all of that. Now that was I didn't have a lot of friends in those days, at all, because it was like full on. And again, to your earlier question, it's like, why persistence, grit, all those things. Yeah.
They're all real. What question, we can wrap it up. There's all kinds. I have like 2 or 3 that I'm like, man, let me dig further into Russell, but we only have a couple more minutes to dig deep. But do you, it's a different way to frame this, but what question would you now go back and ask that Russell? You know how we're like, oh, what would we have done different? And do you have regrets? No. What question now, knowing this journey, would you have gone back and asked Russell in the beginning? Is there a question you would ask him?
Yeah. Well, I never thought I'd get this far. I didn't dream that the business would be at this scale, for sure. in the early days. The question I would ask, like, one interesting question is like, what hire would you have made sooner in the business, right? Like, what skill set do you think you really need to be successful? Back to like the team point. And I think we've done a good job at navigating, but HR is also very difficult. There's people that have come, people that have gone. So it would be like a team question.
Do you know the hire that you need to make to really unlock the business?
Yeah. And we found those hires for sure. There's that. And then I think also there was a lot of the early days, we bootstrapped for a long while, right? I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, like, they spend too much time trying to figure out the perfect solution versus like, okay, we've got something here, let's just go for it, right? I probably was spinning too many plates too early with too many responsibilities and not breathing enough life into the business to learn that lesson too.
But now we know.
Now we know.
Tell you what. All right, man. Russell Breuer, Spot Tango. What a cool brand.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been you're a local Ohio guy. I'm from Cleveland originally. I really appreciate the great questions. Oftentimes folks like dig into like the commercial elements more. Like, this is a bit more like puritanical and introspective. I really, honestly, I mean that.
Yeah, thank you. I think all the people listening, you know what they say right now in the entire world, 1 in 5 people at any given moment are either thinking about a business or starting one. And so what that means is these conversations are relevant.
Amazing. And I believe that statistic for sure. That's the American dream. It's this entrepreneurship is in everybody for sure. Yeah. I love that. That's that.
Spot Tango, drive it all the way.
That's it. Awesome.
Thank you, man. Hey, what's the one place? Just go to the brand. I'm sure you have a LinkedIn and all that, but go to the brand or go to you.
Spotandtango.com. That's where you learn more about us.
All right, man. And we'll check out all the entertainment that you guys do.
That's it. Brilliant.
All right, man. Thanks for jumping in.
Talk to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
See you.